I'm here today because I had a moment around 15 years ago that changed my life. I had been highly trained in negotiation, and I realized that I was the person who was a fearless negotiator for other people. That when it came to my colleagues, my company, my family, my friends, I could absolutely negotiate with confidence and stand up for what other people needed. But I struggled to do it for myself until the moment that changed everything for me. And that's when I first had to negotiate my own salary. And I received the advice from a senior woman that changed my whole life. I asked her, basically, I got a good offer, and I asked her whether I should negotiate. And she said to me, Alex, you must ask for more, because when you teach someone how to value you, you teach him how to value all of us. And so if you're not going to negotiate for yourself, I want you to negotiate for the woman who's coming after you. Do it for the sisterhood. And so that is why, of all the events I do, I teach at the UN, I teach at Fortune 100 companies all over the world. I love doing events like this, where we are equipping and empowering women to negotiate and to self-advocate to make everybody better, and we're going to do it for the sisterhood. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And I want to give you one final note, which is to let you know, as Ariana said, I direct the Mediation Clinic, which means that I actually practice with my students. We help people negotiate high stakes, high conflict disputes. I promise you, it is not possible to distract me while I'm presenting. I'm used to a lot of distraction in the courts of New York. For that reason, I'm not only going to invite, I'm going to request that if you have a comment, a question, a reaction to anything I'm saying, please drop it in the chat. And this way we can feel as close to possible, like we are all having a conversation here today. All right, so if that sounds good to you, let's get started. I want to talk to you first about what negotiation is not. Has anybody ever heard this tired old definition that negotiation is basically a back and forth over money, right? And so maybe we're doing this a few times a year. You know, that once a year I go into my manager, maybe it's Maria, and I say, hey, Maria, you know, Alex Carter here. I published a book. I won an award. Keep me in mind when you're making compensation decisions. Or maybe it's a few times a year when we're, you know, doing a deal, right? So maybe Maribel and I, you know, we're signing a contract 3 times a year. So I feel like, you know, we're negotiating those 3 times. Or unfortunately, negotiation's what you do if you end up in court and you have to figure out how to settle out of it. You know, and over time, I started to think about how limited and narrow and frankly reactive this was, right? As though we only negotiate a few times a year when the circumstances thrust it upon us. So this is no longer what I teach. I teach this. And here's where, do you remember that I was going to ask you to chat to me? We've reached that moment. So I'm looking at right now a beautiful picture of a kayak going through some sea caves. And I would love to hear from you what you think this picture has to do with negotiation, because this is what I teach. Everywhere I go, I'm teaching this. So what do we think this has to do with negotiation?
Negotiation isn't selfish. Negotiation benefits other people. You know, when you negotiate, your clients benefit. That's right, because they get the fullest, most excited, most engaged version of you, not the one that's burnt out and resentful. When you negotiate, you make it easier for the other people in this room to make a living themselves. That's right, and that's why you're here. So if you have ever hesitated in this room, I know we're surrounded by successful entrepreneurs. If you have ever hesitated to take your negotiation skills to the next level, or maybe you've wondered, can I do this and still be a kind, collaborative person? The answer is you can, and I'm here to tell you how. So are we ready? Yeah. Let's ask for more. Okay. So a lot of times when people think about negotiation, they think about, here we go. Up. Now I know it's on a time delay. Good to know. All right. So a lot of times when people think about negotiation, what they think about is sales funnels, right? Conference tables. We think about money and haggling over a contract. And early on in my career, I thought, well, I guess that means I just don't negotiate very much, right? Maybe the contract comes up once a year. For you all, it might be once a wedding. And I also thought to myself, this doesn't sound so appealing, right? It sounds like a battle. But that's actually not what negotiation is. This is. And this picture is an homage to my honeymoon trip to Hawaii, which is where I learned how to negotiate. And no, it's not because I married another lawyer, although that certainly made things interesting. It's because, picture this, we're on the Wailua River in Kauai. Anyone been? Okay. In a kayak, and our guide up ahead says to us, all right, folks, let's negotiate these things to the left because we're headed for that beach up ahead. And everyone else, I think, was drinking in the beautiful Hawaiian scenery, but my brain all of a sudden went somewhere else. Because I had never heard somebody use the word negotiate in that way before. And I thought to myself, that's right. When I'm negotiating my kayak toward a beach, what am I doing? I'm steering. And in that moment, I thought to myself, what if I didn't treat negotiation like the once a quarter haggling over the contract? What if I thought of it as just like steering a kayak, steering my relationships, steering my career? And I realized that when I thought about negotiation that way, I didn't have to wait until money was at stake. I could be steering my relationships with my clients, my future clients, my colleagues, even my family and friends. And when I returned from that honeymoon, I looked around and I saw opportunities to negotiate everywhere. Who could I be talking to today? Who could I reach out to make a connection? Who could I be teaching about my value and what I can offer? And who could I be getting to know, maybe including in this room, who could help me in my future business? And I have never been more empowered or more in the driver's seat of my career as I was the day I learned that.